The alien diplomatic ship entered Earth's orbit in complete silence. Its silver hull gleamed against the sunlight as the blue planet slowly rotated beneath it. From the distance, Earth looked peaceful, too peaceful for a species that had shaken the balance of the galaxy. Inside the alien vessel, tension was heavy. The diplomats of the Velrin Council stood in long ceremonial robes, their faces calm but their eyes restless. They had come to make peace, or so they said. In truth, they were there to judge humanity's potential and decide whether it should be contained before it grew too strong. Ambassador Thale, the leader of the delegation, watched the planet from the main viewport. His voice was low and sharp. No escorts, no greetings, no orbital defense transmissions, he said, narrowing his translucent eyes. Strange. Humans usually make noise before they fight. One of his aides, a young diplomat named Sorrel, spoke hesitantly. Perhaps they are afraid. Perhaps this quiet is their surrender. Thale gave a dry smile. Humans don't surrender quietly. There's something else happening down there. Across the orbit, in a hidden control center deep under the Pacific Ocean, human officers sat around glowing screens. The alien vessel was being tracked from the moment it entered the solar system. Inside the steel command room, General Aaron Voss stood tall, his uniform perfectly pressed, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of the alien ship. They've arrived, he said simply. No weapons powered, but their scanners are active. An operator turned to him. Do we respond, sir? The council declared this a diplomatic mission. The general shook his head. Not yet. Let them wonder if we're listening. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any word. The command room filled with quiet hums of machines. Behind the walls, deep under miles of reinforced metal, the hum of something massive could be felt. A slow vibration that only a few humans on Earth truly understood. In orbit, the Velrin ship waited. Hours passed and no human signal came. The diplomats exchanged confused glances. It is rude, said one. They ignore the council's authority. Another muttered, perhaps their systems are too primitive to reply. But Ambassador Thale felt a strange unease in his chest. Something about this silence did not feel like ignorance. It felt like control. He leaned toward the communications officer. Send the signal again. Higher frequency. Make sure they hear it. The signal traveled through the atmosphere, sharp, clear, and formal. It echoed across Earth's satellite network. And once again there was no reply. But deep inside Earth's hidden command structure, the message was received, decoded, and quietly stored. Humans were listening. They were just not answering. General Voss turned to his officers. How long have they been waiting? 6 hours, sir, an officer replied. They've sent 3 diplomatic messages, all standard greetings. The general's voice was calm. Keep monitoring. Let them grow impatient. Back in orbit, frustration began to rise. Ambassador Thale's tone turned cold. Are we certain this planet has no defense network? The ship's pilot nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Their surface shows only minimal power readings. They have no orbital stations. No fleet signatures, Thale frowned. Then what are they hiding? As he spoke, the view of Earth shifted slightly and something caught his eye. Near the northern hemisphere, sunlight reflected strangely against the clouds like metal flashing beneath the atmosphere. Focus sensors there, Thale ordered. Something is moving. The scanners flickered, trying to capture the reading, but every attempt failed. It's being blocked, the technician said. The interference is deliberate. Thale's confidence began to fade. Deliberate? He whispered. By humans? His aide looked at him nervously. Could they have developed new technology without the council knowing? The ambassador turned away, saying nothing. For the first time, he wondered if their intelligence reports were wrong. On Earth, deep under the ocean, a red alert pulsed softly through the hidden base. The voice of an AI system echoed through the speakers. Diplomatic vessel within range. Authorization code required for Titan-class deployment. General Voss stood in silence for a moment, then said, Code Leviathan. The AI confirmed. Authorization accepted. Preparing Titan-class warship Leviathan for ascent. Above the clouds, the ocean began to ripple as invisible pressure built beneath it. Waves spread in all directions, and then, without warning, the water split open. A massive shadow rose from the depths. Metal surfaces glistened with water as a colossal structure emerged, rising through the mist. It was not just a ship, it was a fortress. Its hull stretched longer than a city. its surface covered with glowing blue veins of energy. The Leviathan's engines activated with a low, thunderous hum that vibrated through the atmosphere. Lightning flashed around it as it climbed higher, breaking through the clouds. The ship rose into the sunlight, revealing its scale. Dozens of towers, weapons, and shield arrays gleamed across its hull. In orbit, the Velrin Diplomats stood frozen. Their ship's sensors screamed warnings. Energy spike detected. Unknown vessel approaching from atmosphere. Thale rushed to the viewport. At first, he saw only light. Then the light took form, the outline of something so vast it seemed to fill the horizon. "That's impossible," he breathed. "They cannot build something like this." The Velrin ship tried to scan it, but the data broke apart. Their systems... "They're jamming us again," the technician said in panic. It's not possible, Ambassador." "Their technology, it's beyond ours." As the Titan-class warship reached orbit, its massive hull rotated slowly. A symbol became visible on its side, a blue Earth encircled by a white ring. Humanity's mark. The Leviathan's main engines flared, sending ripples of light across space. The alien vessel trembled as its shields struggled to stabilize. General Voss watched from command. "Send them a message," he said. "One message only." Across the stars, the alien ship received a single transmission. A simple human voice spoke. "Welcome to Earth's orbit. Maintain distance." Ambassador Thale's hands trembled. The words were polite, but the meaning was clear. Earth did not fear the Council. Earth was prepared. As the massive warship drifted between their ship and the planet, blocking their view of the surface, silence filled the alien deck. The diplomats exchanged no words. None were needed. Far below, on Earth, General Voss looked out the observation window as sunlight reflected off the Titan's surface. "Let the galaxy know," he said quietly. "Humanity doesn't talk before it's ready. And when we do, everyone listens." The Leviathan's engines roared one last time, and the giant ship settled into orbit, casting a shadow over both Earth and the alien vessel. The diplomats who had come to deliver peace had found something else: humanity's quiet warning. The Titan-class warship Leviathan floated silently in Earth's orbit, its shadow stretching over the blue curve of the planet. From a distance, it looked like a mountain forged from steel, its engines glowing faintly like the heart of a sleeping giant. The Velrin diplomatic ship, now trembling in its position, sent message after message into the void, but the Leviathan did not respond. It didn't need to. Its presence alone was the message. Inside the alien vessel, panic was spreading among the crew. The diplomats whispered in their own language, their voices low and uncertain. "Their technology, it's impossible," one said. "We studied their development. They were centuries behind us." Another replied in disbelief. "Then how is that ship real?" The communications officer turned from his station. "Ambassador, the humans, they're not responding to our transmissions. It's like they're ignoring us deliberately." Ambassador Thale felt his confidence unravel. He turned toward the viewport, watching the massive warship drift with quiet menace. Every part of its hull seemed alive, lines of blue energy pulsing like veins under skin. "No species hides a weapon like that without reason," he said softly. They were waiting for us. Back on Earth, in the underground command center beneath the Pacific, General Voss walked between his officers, calm but alert. Holographic displays showed the Leviathan's orbit, the alien ship's readings, and multiple channels of silent communications. "They're scared," one officer said with a small grin. "They've stopped transmitting," Voss nodded. "Good. Let them process what they're seeing." He paused before the central display, staring at the glowing silhouette of the Titan-class ship. "Do we engage communication, sir?" another officer asked. Voss took a deep breath. "No. They came here to assess us, to see if humanity was weak enough to control. They need to learn that Earth answers only when it chooses to." Above, the Leviathan adjusted its position, moving closer to the alien vessel. The light from its engines flared softly, illuminating the smaller ship. For a moment, every diplomat inside felt the weight of that silent gaze. Thale swallowed hard. "They're moving toward us," he said quietly. "Do they mean to attack?" His aide shook his head. "No weapons active. But their power readings, they're enormous." The Velrin delegation debated their next move. Some argued for retreat, others for defiance. "We cannot flee," Thale said, raising his voice. "The Council will demand answers." If we run now, we lose all credibility. But even as he spoke, he could feel the fear in his words. The humans had shown restraint, but that restraint felt more dangerous than open hostility. Meanwhile, inside the Leviathan's command bridge, Captain Rhea Sol stood before the viewing screen. The vastness of space stretched before her, and the alien ship was a mere speck against the stars. "Orders, Captain?" asked her second-in-command. Rhea's eyes narrowed slightly. "Keep position. No weapons online unless provoked. Earth has made its statement already. We're here to protect, not to threaten." Her voice was steady, but her crew knew the unspoken truth. The Leviathan's presence was more than defense. It was proof, to the galaxy and to Earth's people, that humanity had reached a point where it could no longer be ignored. On the alien ship, the crew continued to scan the Titan. Every reading defied logic. "It's not built like any known design," said the technician. "It's materials, and they don't match any element in our database." The ship's AI struggled to even measure its dimensions. "Energy output exceeds Council dreadnoughts by 40%, the voice reported. Thal's heart sank. 40%? Against the most powerful ships in the galaxy? The silence that followed said everything. Down on Earth, global networks buzzed with encrypted communication. Governments stayed quiet. Civilians were unaware. The Leviathan's existence was the planet's deepest secret, known only to the few who had sworn to guard it. For generations, humanity had watched the stars, knowing one day the Council would come not with friendship but with control. And when that day came, they needed something that could speak for all of Earth without a single word. Hours passed. The alien diplomats, realizing the humans would not respond, prepared to send a final message. It was meant to be a plea for understanding, a last attempt at peace. "Transmit this," Thal said, his voice weary. "To the people of Earth. We come in peace and seek only unity." The message traveled through space, reaching the orbiting Titan. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then, the Leviathan stirred. Lights rippled across its hull. One of its massive communication arrays unfolded slowly, aligning toward the alien vessel. A signal came through, short and clear. On the alien screens, a simple human voice echoed once more. "Unity begins with honesty. You came to measure us, now you know the result." The voice faded, leaving only static. The alien bridge fell silent. Every being there understood what it meant. Humanity was no longer the young species the Council once watched from afar. It had grown, evolved, and prepared, quietly, patiently, for the moment when the galaxy would come knocking. Thal sank into his chair, his mind racing. "They were never afraid," he whispered. "They were waiting." His aide looked out the viewport at the warship drifting between them and Earth. "Ambassador, what do we tell the Council?" Thal stared at the glowing blue veins of the Leviathan's hull. "Tell them not to send another diplomat. Next time they may not be as patient." On the Leviathan's bridge, Captain Rhea watched as the alien vessel slowly turned away, its engines glowing weakly as it began retreating from orbit. "They're leaving," her officer confirmed. Rhea nodded. "Good. Let them carry the message home." Far below, General Voss received the report. He allowed himself a rare smile. "The galaxy wanted to test us," he said softly. "Now they'll think twice before trying again." He turned to the main console and gave one final order. "Keep the Leviathan in orbit. Let it be seen. Let every eye in the sky remember what Earth is capable of." The Titan-class warship remained suspended between Earth and the stars, glowing softly against the darkness. It was not a weapon of conquest but a symbol, an unspoken vow that humanity's peace would be defended by strength. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, alien worlds would soon whisper of the day their diplomats came to Earth and met the silent guardian that waited for them. The Velran delegation ship drifted through the void, its engines dim, its crew silent. No one spoke as the image of Earth's Titan-class warship slowly vanished behind them. The silence was heavy, thicker than the vacuum outside. Ambassador. Thale sat in his chair, staring at the stars without blinking. He had seen war. He had seen worlds burn under the Council's orders. But he had never seen anything like that ship. There was no arrogance in its design, no decoration, no threat. It simply existed. Massive, calm, unstoppable. It was not built to fight. It was built to end fights before they began. Inside the command chamber, the others whispered. "Should we send the report immediately?" one asked. "If we tell the Council what we saw, it could trigger panic." Thale's voice was quiet but firm. "We'd tell them everything, but carefully. Words can start wars." He stood and turned toward the stars, his reflection faint in the glass. Humanity has crossed a line the galaxy didn't know existed. Back on Earth, the Leviathan's engines pulsed gently as it orbited the planet. Inside the colossal ship, crew members moved through gleaming corridors lined with blue light. The sound of machinery echoed softly, a constant heartbeat of steel. Captain Rhea Sol walked toward the observation deck, her boots tapping in rhythm with the ship's hum. Through the panoramic glass, Earth's oceans shimmered below, calm and radiant. Yet her thoughts were heavy. "They'll be back," she said quietly. Her second in command, Commander Iden, joined her. "The Council?" he asked. She nodded. "Diplomats never travel without someone watching from behind. Somewhere out there, a fleet is listening to every word exchanged." Iden frowned. "If they come again, what do we do?" Rhea's eyes stayed on the stars. "The same thing we did today. We stay silent, we stay ready, and we let them realize that Earth is not what they think it is." Far below, in the command center beneath the Pacific, General Voss stood in front of the main screen. Reports scrolled endlessly, energy readings, communication intercepts, orbital scans. He raised a hand and the room fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his tone calm but filled with weight. "Today, we did not fire a single shot. But make no mistake, today was a battle, and we won." A young officer hesitated. "Sir, do you think they'll return with reinforcements?" Voss turned slowly. "Of course they will, but that's not the point. The point is, when they come, they'll know Earth doesn't kneel." He tapped the holographic display, where the Leviathan glowed like a star above the planet. "The galaxy has seen what we built. That knowledge alone changes everything." Light years away, the Velrin Council gathered in their vast chamber. The hall was carved from crystal and silver, glowing faintly under artificial suns. Ambassadors from dozens of species sat in rows, their voices murmuring with tension. At the center, High Chancellor Vielkor waited as Thale's ship transmitted the recorded data. The hologram of Earth appeared, followed by the colossal image of the Leviathan emerging from the clouds. The chamber fell silent. Even the translators paused. "What is that?" the Chancellor asked. His voice echoed through the dome. Thyla's image appeared in the hologram, weary and grim. "That," he said slowly, "is humanity's Titan-class warship. It is unlike anything we have ever seen." The chamber erupted in disbelief. "Impossible," shouted one representative. "Humans lack the infrastructure for such a design." Another hissed. "They are a primitive race. You must be mistaken." Thale raised a hand, silencing the uproar. "We saw it with our own eyes. It moved through the atmosphere like a blade through water. It absorbed our scans. It jammed our sensors. And when we hailed them, they responded with calm. No fear, no aggression. Just control." He paused, letting his words settle. "They were prepared for us." The Chancellor leaned forward. "And you're certain it was human-built?" Thale nodded. "Every marking, every transmission, every pattern. It was Earth's. This was no alien technology gifted to them. They made it themselves." For a moment, the council chamber was filled only with the hum of power conduits. Then Vielkor spoke again. "If humans have achieved such engineering, the balance of the galaxy has changed. The Council must decide whether to confront or to conceal this. Murmurs broke out again. Some wanted to prepare for war. Others wanted to establish control quietly. But Thales spoke before they could vote. You won't control them. You won't intimidate them. I looked into the eyes of their commanders. They're not afraid of war. They're afraid of losing peace. On Earth, Captain Rhea received new orders from command. The message was short and sealed with the Defense Fleet emblem. She opened it on her display screen. Maintain silent orbit. Await signal from command. Titan status. Defensive posture. Observation active. She sighed softly. Observation, she repeated. We always observe, but never rest. Commander Iden approached her. Permission to speak freely? She nodded. If the aliens come back with a fleet, and what's our limit, Captain? Do we fight? Rhea turned to him, her face calm but resolute. If they come with ships, we'll defend. If they come with words, we'll listen. But if they come with chains, we'll remind them why humanity built the Titans in the first place. Outside, the Leviathan rotated slowly, its massive hull gleaming against the light of the rising sun. From the surface, it looked like a second moon. To those who knew, it was a guardian, a symbol of Earth's promise to never bow again. In the following days, subtle signals rippled through the galaxy. Spies whispered, traders gossiped, and military networks lit up with speculation. The humans have something, they said. A weapon, a ship, a message. Fear spread faster than truth ever could. The Council scrambled to hide the news, but the story escaped like light through cracks in glass. Back in the Council chambers, Thales stood alone after the session ended. The Chancellor approached him quietly. You've changed everything, Ambassador. The galaxy will not sleep easily after your report. Thales' voice was soft. Neither will humanity. They know what's coming. The Chancellor frowned. Do you believe they would attack us? Thales shook his head. No, but if they are ever forced to fight, they won't stop. In the vast silence of orbit, the Leviathan continued its watch. Lights glowed faintly across its surface, engines humming like a slow heartbeat. It was waiting, not for orders, not for war, but for the inevitable moment when the stars would test humanity again. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, fleets began to stir. Eyes turned toward the small blue planet that had once been ignored. No one said it aloud, but every ruler, every admiral, every counselor in the galaxy now shared the same thought. Earth was no longer just a world. It was a warning. The Leviathan continued its silent orbit around Earth, glowing like a second moon. To the ordinary people below, it was just another star, a distant light in the night sky. But to those who knew, it was a symbol of a new era, one where humanity no longer looked up in fear. For the first time, Earth stood as an equal among the stars. Inside the ship's command bridge, Captain Rhea Saul reviewed the reports. Velrin vessel has left orbit, her officer confirmed. They're moving toward their relay network. Rhea gave a quiet nod. Good, they'll carry the story home. But even as the alien diplomats retreated, Rhea knew the encounter had only begun. Once the Council learns what they saw, she said, they'll come back with more than diplomats. Commander Iden crossed his arms. Then we'll be ready, Captain. Rhea looked out through the viewing glass. The Earth below shone like a jewel wrapped in blue mist. We were always ready, she said softly. Far beyond the moon's orbit, the Velrin diplomatic ship slowed near an ancient relay station, a communication hub used by the Galactic Council. The crew worked in silence, uploading sensor data, voice recordings, and images of the Titan-class warship. The data transfer took hours. Each frame of the Leviathan's emergence was analyzed, cataloged, and transmitted through secure channels. Ambassador Thales stood in the control bay, his reflection flickering against the relay's light. Once this is sent, his aide said quietly, the Council will act. Thales nodded. Yes, but not wisely. He turned toward the viewport. They will see a weapon. But I saw something else. A civilization that has learned to be silent only because it knows how loud it can be. Within days, the report reached the galactic core. Panic spread faster than reason. Council members gathered in secret meetings, speaking in sharp, fearful tones. If humanity can build something like that in isolation, one admiral said, imagine what they could achieve with allies. Another spat, they are dangerous, We must limit them before it's too late. The Chancellor listened quietly before responding. Or we may drive them to unite against us. Remember what happened with the Koro Empire. Fear breeds fire. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the quiet beneath the ocean base began to fade. The human world government had convened an emergency session under the codename Project Dawn. General Voss stood before the Council's circular chamber, a holographic display of the Leviathan floating above the table. The Velrin delegation has left our orbit, he said, but the message we sent will echo through the galaxy. We must prepare for the echo's return. The council leader, a calm and measured woman named Chancellor Mira Dane, folded her hands. Do you believe they'll retaliate? Voss's tone was steady. Not yet. But curiosity is more dangerous than aggression. They'll send observers, spies, maybe fleets. They'll want to know what else we've built. Mira nodded slowly. And what will they find? Voss allowed himself a thin smile. Only what we allow them to see. In the quiet dark of space, the Leviathan drifted into a new position. Deep inside the ship's engineering core, technicians monitored the warship systems. Massive reactors pulsed like living hearts. Energy flowed through the hull, maintaining a perfect balance between offense and defense. Each subsystem was designed for independence, self-repairing, self-learning, adaptable to new threats. Humanity had poured every lesson from centuries of struggle into this one creation. At the far end of the galaxy, a fleet of smaller council ships gathered at a listening post. They intercepted fragments of the Velrin report. The officers on board watched the holographic image of the Leviathan with disbelief. It's too large, one whispered. They must be exaggerating. Another shook his head. No, look at the energy signature. That's real. The admiral in charge leaned forward. Then Earth has achieved something the Council feared for centuries. Autonomy. As weeks passed, the galaxy buzzed with rumors. Merchants whispered about the giant that sleeps over Earth. Military outposts began reviewing old human transmissions, searching for hidden codes or plans. Even neutral systems started reconsidering their alliances. Humanity's shadow stretched far beyond its small planet. Captain Rhea received new encrypted orders from command. Prepare for external surveillance. Maintain low visibility. Observe without engagement. She turned to her crew. They'll send drones next. Maybe unmanned probes. Let them come. Record everything. Commander Iden grinned faintly. Let them see what patience looks like. Back on Earth, General Voss met with Chancellor Mira in private. How long can we hide the truth? She asked quietly. Not forever, Voss admitted. But we don't need forever. Just long enough to finish what we've started. And that is? Mira asked. He smiled slightly. The second Titan. Mira's eyes widened. A second one? I thought the Leviathan was the only functioning prototype. Voss turned toward the large screen behind him. The image changed, revealing an underground construction bay miles beneath Antarctica. In the dim light, another massive shape rested beneath layers of scaffolding. The behemoth, he said. It's not ready yet. But when it is, humanity won't just defend Earth, it will defend the frontier. High above, the Leviathan adjusted orbit again, aligning itself with a distant signal. Captain Rhea watched as a small probe approached from deep space. Foreign origin, her officer reported. Velrin make, non-aggressive. Rhea smiled faintly. Let it come closer. The probe moved within scanning range, taking images of the ship. For a moment, it floated quietly, recording data. Then, with a flash of blue light, its systems shut down. The Leviathan's defense grid had silently overridden its core. Commander Iden turned to Rhea. Should we destroy it? She shook her head. No, let them retrieve it. Let them find nothing but static. Hours later, as the probe drifted back into deep space, the Velrin relay station received its feed. Every frame of the Leviathan was erased. Every scan replaced by noise. Thale, watching from his quarters, understood instantly. They knew we were watching, he murmured. And they chose what we could see. He turned off the screen, his mind heavy with realization. They aren't hiding their power, he whispered. They're teaching us to respect it. In orbit, the Titan-class warship drifted silently against the stars, its surface reflecting the light of a rising sun. Humanity's message had traveled farther than any fleet. It was not a declaration of war. It was the quiet warning of a species that had finally found its place among the stars. And somewhere beyond the rim of the galaxy, Where the Council's authority began to fade, others were listening. Some in fear, some in admiration, and some in awe. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to shift. Whispers of Earth's Titan-class warship spread from one star system to another, like a slow, inevitable tide. Traders told stories in dimly lit stations, embellishing every detail until the Leviathan sounded like a god forged from iron. The Galactic Council tried to contain the rumors, issuing official statements dismissing them as exaggerated observations. But the truth was already beyond control. The Velrin diplomats had returned home silent and shaken. Their report was clear. Humanity was no longer to be underestimated. Ambassador Thale spent long hours alone in his private chamber aboard the Velrin capital station. The Council wanted him to prepare a new mission, one that would assess humanity's intentions. Yet deep down he knew that would be a mistake. They will not respond to words, he said to himself quietly. They will respond to actions. He opened the holographic report again, rewatching the Leviathan's rise through Earth's atmosphere. The clouds had split like curtains, sunlight striking metal that looked alive. He could still hear the soft tremor of that moment, the calm before the universe realized it was no longer in charge. Back on Earth, the world was beginning to change as well. In the underground Pacific Command, General Voss monitored transmissions intercepted from the Council's outer systems. They're arguing, he said to his staff. Half of them want to open trade, half want to prepare for war. One of his analysts looked up from the console.
Should we intervene, sir?
Maybe send a message? Voss shook his head. No, let them argue. Fear is the best defense we have right now. Chancellor Mira Dane entered the room, her presence commanding immediate silence. General, she said, the people will start asking questions. They've seen the Leviathan during its last orbital pass. How long can we keep this secret? Voss gave a faint smile. Until it's no longer a secret, until it becomes a symbol. Mira studied him for a moment. You think showing it openly would keep us safer? Yes, he said, because nothing is more dangerous than a mystery. Once they see what we've built, they'll think twice before testing it. Meanwhile, in the depths of Antarctica, the Behemoth, the second Titan-class warship, began to awaken. Massive cranes moved across the colossal hangar, welding sections of armor, connecting reactors and sealing energy cores. Engineers in white suits moved like ants across its surface. Unlike the Leviathan, this one was designed not just for defense but for command, a flagship capable of leading fleets across interstellar space. Humanity's silence had given it time, and time was now its greatest weapon. Above the planet, Captain Rhea Sol stood on the Leviathan's observation deck, her eyes tracing the curve of Earth below. Command has authorized limited exposure, her officer reported. We're to move into visible orbit for 3 hours during the next rotation. Rhea nodded. Let them see us. Let every telescope on Earth remember why we're still free. The ship's engines hummed softly as it adjusted course, drifting into sunlight. Across the night sky, millions of people looked up in wonder as a brilliant silver arc appeared above the clouds. To most, it looked like a meteor that refused to fall. To those who knew, it was a message written in light, a reminder that Earth was no longer small. The media speculated wildly. Governments denied involvement, but ordinary people felt something deeper, pride. Humanity had built something that no one could take away. Far beyond, the Council's high chamber descended into chaos. Reports from border fleets confirmed strange readings, energy spikes near the Sol system, long-range interference, and the unmistakable gravitational signatures of massive engines. We cannot allow them to expand unchecked, shouted one admiral. Another countered, confrontation will destroy us all. They haven't attacked anyone. The Chancellor raised his hand. Enough. His voice was cold, steady. If humanity truly possesses multiple Titan-class warships, we are not dealing with a threat. We are dealing with inevitability. At that moment, Ambassador Thale entered the chamber, summoned by emergency order. His face was pale, but his voice carried quiet authority. If you want peace, leave them alone. If you want war, you will not survive it. The room erupted in disbelief. Are you suggesting we submit to a primitive world? Someone hissed. Thale's eyes glinted under the chamber lights. No, he said softly. I'm suggesting we listen to them, for once. Back on Earth, the Leviathan received a transmission. The signal was encrypted, carrying Velrin Council codes. Captain Rhea and her officers gathered around the main console as the message played. A familiar voice echoed through the ship's speakers. It was Thala. "To the commanders of Earth," he said calmly, "the Council will not act. But others may. Beware the fringe fleets beyond our borders. They do not listen to reason. You have power now. Use it carefully." Then the signal ended. Commander Iden frowned. "Do we trust it?" Rhea stayed silent for a moment, then nodded. "For now. He's not warning us out of fear. He's warning us out of respect." She turned toward the stars. "And that's rarer than peace itself." In the following days, human scanners picked up small fleets moving near the edges of the solar system. Unidentified ships, keeping distance but always watching. The Council had chosen to observe rather than engage, but not everyone in the galaxy agreed. Some factions wanted to test Earth's strength for themselves. The Leviathan's defensive grid was activated, its shield shimmering faintly like a ghost around its hull. Every movement was monitored, every anomaly tracked. General Voss convened a final meeting with Chancellor Mira. "They're coming," he said. "Small fleet scouts, testing our perimeter." Mira's expression remained calm. "And what will you do?" "Nothing," he said. "We'll let them see what happens when they get too close." Hours later, one of the alien ships crossed the invisible boundary near the moon's orbit. Without firing a shot, the Leviathan reacted. Its hull brightened with blinding light as an energy wave expanded outward, harmless yet powerful enough to disable every system within range. The intruding ships went dark instantly, engines dead, weapons silent. For 2 long minutes, space was filled with nothing but quiet. Then the Leviathan's voice echoed through every channel. "This is Earth. You are welcome to observe, but not to trespass." The alien fleets retreated immediately. No one fired. No one dared. From that day forward, the Leviathan became known by a new name whispered across the stars: the Silent Sentinel. It was not a myth. It was a reminder that peace was not given. It was earned, protected, and guarded by those willing to stand watch in silence. And somewhere deep under the ice, the behemoth stirred, its engines warming, its systems coming online. Humanity was no longer waiting for the galaxy's permission. It was preparing to meet it on equal ground. The galaxy watched Earth in uneasy silence. Every signal, every flicker of transmission, every whisper across the void seemed to revolve around one unshakable truth. Humanity had changed the balance. Where once the planet was considered a young, restless world, now it was a name spoken carefully in council chambers and command centers alike. And yet on Earth itself life continued. Children went to school, cities hummed with noise, and people looked up at the glowing dot in the sky, the Leviathan, unaware of how deeply their world had shaken the stars. Deep beneath the ocean, in the Pacific Command bunker, General Aaron Voss stood before a circular display of the solar system. Dozens of small red markers blinked around the outer edges. Unmanned probes, stealth vessels, and listening drones placed there by alien powers. "They think we don't see them," he said quietly. His aide nodded. "Orders, sir?" Voss's eyes stayed fixed on the map. "We let them listen, but only to what we want them to hear." He turned toward the communications officer. "Activate Project Echo." The officer hesitated. "Sir, that will broadcast false transmissions across multiple frequencies." Voss gave a faint smile. "Exactly. Let them believe they're learning something. Let them drown in their own curiosity." As the false signals went out, waves of coded transmissions spread through space, fragments of coordinates, ship readings, energy surges. Alien intelligence agencies picked up the data within hours. Across the galaxy, analysts and spies began dissecting the information. "They're building more Titans," one report claimed. "No, it's an energy weapon," said another. Fear, rumor, and uncertainty did the work of 1,000 guns. On the Leviathan, Captain Rhea Sol received the report from command. She stood silently, her hands clasped behind her back. "They'll believe whatever frightens them most," she said. Her second-in-command, Iden, leaned forward slightly. "Do we have more ships, Captain? Or is this all just smoke and mirrors?" Rhea's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "Sometimes smoke is more powerful than fire." Outside, the Leviathan glided through orbit like a guardian spirit. Its blue lights flickered softly, reflecting off the curve of the Earth. Below, night was spreading over the continents. Lights shimmered across cities, signs of life, defiance, and hope. Humanity had always been small in the eyes of the universe, but now even the smallest light seemed to carry weight. Thousands of light-years away, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The chamber was filled with delegates from hundreds of worlds. Some demanded unity, others vengeance. The High Chancellor, Valcor, listened with cold patience as the room erupted into chaos. "The humans are expanding," shouted one alien commander. "If they have more of those warships, our fleets will be useless." Another slammed a fist against the table. "We must form a blockade, contain their system before it's too late." When silence finally returned, the Chancellor spoke. "Contain them?" he said softly. "Tell me, how do you contain a species that has already contained your fear?" The words rippled through the room like thunder. Ambassador Thaley, standing near the edge, closed his eyes. He knew this was exactly what he had warned them about. "You cannot threaten them," he said. "They won't respond like the others. They will stand and they will wait, and you will be the first to blink." While the Council argued, the smaller rogue factions acted. Near the outer edge of the Sol system, a fleet of warships belonging to a breakaway empire known as the Raxian Dominion entered stealth mode. The Raxians were not part of the Council. They were scavengers, old warriors who thrived on conquest. "If we strike first," their admiral said, "the galaxy will reward us. Take their ship and take their power." Their engines glowed faintly as they slipped closer to Earth, cloaked and confident. But humanity was already watching. High above Neptune's orbit, an invisible net of satellites tracked the intruding fleet. Inside the Leviathan, alarms pulsed silently. Commander Iden looked up from his console. Unidentified signatures detected. 12 ships. Raxian configuration. Rhea Sol's eyes narrowed. "Approaching stealth pattern?" "Confirmed, Captain." "Don't engage," she said. "Let them come closer. They need to see how far they're allowed to go." The Leviathan drifted slightly, adjusting its orbit, placing itself between the alien ships and Earth. The Raxian fleet continued forward, unaware they were already being targeted. "No human ships detected," their captain said smugly. "Primitive sensors. They won't even see us, but they did." A faint hum filled space as the Leviathan's hull began to glow. Energy lines pulsed across its surface like veins of blue fire. One by one, the Raxian ship sensors went black. "What's happening?" shouted one pilot. "Systems offline!" another cried. The fleet tried to power up their shields, but the Leviathan's interference field expanded faster than their computers could react. On the human ship's bridge, Rhea gave the order. "Broadcast." A voice, deep and calm, echoed across every channel. "You have entered restricted space. Leave now or be removed." The Raxians hesitated. They tried to charge weapons, but nothing worked. One ship attempted to fire thrusters and found them frozen. Another tried to retreat, only to realize their navigation systems were gone. Within minutes, 12 powerful warships were floating helplessly in the dark. General Voss watched from the Pacific Command Center as the feed came through. "Status?" he asked. "All enemy ships disabled," the officer confirmed. "No casualties. No weapons fired." Voss nodded. "Good. Now give them back their systems." "Sir?" "I said give them back. Let them crawl home with their pride shattered." Moments later, the Leviathan released the interference field. The Raxian fleet systems flickered to life. The alien admiral, furious and humiliated, ordered retreat. The humans didn't pursue. They didn't need to. The message was already written across the stars. Earth did not need to destroy to dominate. In the aftermath, Thal's next report reached the Galactic Council. His words were brief but heavy. The humans defended their world without firing a shot. They have mastered the art of control. If war comes, they will win it before the first missile is launched. The Chancellor closed the transmission and said quietly to his advisors, "Then perhaps it's time the galaxy learned from them." Back in orbit, Captain Rhea stood at the Leviathan's glass viewport, watching the Raxian fleet vanish into the black. Commander Iden joined her. "We didn't fire once," he said with awe. "No need to," Rhea replied. "Sometimes the greatest power isn't in what you destroy. It's in what you choose to spare." The Leviathan drifted back into its watchful orbit, its lights dimming once more. Humanity had proven its strength not through conquest but through restraint. The galaxy had sent warships and spies, but what they found instead was something far greater, a civilization that had learned the true meaning of power. And deep under Antarctica, the behemoth's engines whispered to life. Humanity was no longer just defending Earth. It was preparing for the dawn of a new chapter, one where it would finally step beyond its home, not as a subject of the galaxy, but as one of its guardians.